Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
It's a great pleasure to introduce Ronak Sutaria from India Spin. So Ronak got his undergrad in 2001, and after that he actually spent 2 years here in this building on the second floor, working with Professor Balki. And since then he's been at a couple of startups and has picked up a master's on the way, and in the process got interested in sensor networks. And about two and a half years ago, year and a half years ago, he's been an integral part of India's spend, and he's going to tell us how.
Cool, sure, yeah. So thanks a lot. I mean, it's quite something to be back here. After I was here in 2001, I was working in this building, so it's about 15 years now. So coming back after a long time. But since a year and a half, we've been running a project on air quality monitoring. The organization is with India Spend, which is a data journalism organization. They primarily focus on policy research. So a lot of the number crunching they do is to analyze government policies. But early last year, I mean, there was a need felt that we should collect our own data also, because instead of just relying on government data, which you never know whether it's always available, not available. So we started. So this project started around February, March of last year, 2015. So basically the Breathe network, what we have is, we've built our own independent streaming air quality monitoring network. And we've built our own devices also. The sensors have been taken off the shelf, but the rest of the device and the transmission unit has been built over here locally, including the ADC has been fabricated over here in India. So the device itself, actually, we have it here. I can show it. We actually now have the battery operated version, so which doesn't need, it's just truly wireless. So the earlier versions needed to be plugged into the mains, but this one actually runs on a 6-hour battery, so it runs on the battery thing, and I'll get into the details of it. We have a dashboard where data is available for free for people, and it's going to remain for free on the dashboard. At least the current real-time data is always going to be available to people on the dashboard. And currently we have about 40 devices. We're in the process of getting about 100 out there. So the way I kind of started on this project was, I had been back in California where I was attending talks in the startup community. There was this thing about participatory urbanism, which had been gaining a lot of relevance. And so the vision is, of course, to democratize data critical to saving thousands of lives. And the whole concept around participatory urbanism is to keep the whole space open. It's marked by open authoring, sharing, and remixing of new and existing urban technologies. So honestly, there's not a whole lot of reinventing we do. This is not a R&D space where you're building ground-up technologies. You can, of course, build new technologies, but largely there is new and existing technologies you take which enable citizens to participate in policy making and governance of their city and neighborhood. So that's how I kind of think of participatory urbanism. Coming to the device, we have a SDS011 sensor, which is an off-the-shelf sensor. It's a laser sensor, and it gives us PM 2.5 and PM 10 data. So amongst the air pollution, PM 2.5 and PM 10 is actually the most harmful pollutants. So they settle deepest in the lungs, and they affect humans the most. So we started with focusing on PM 2.5 and 10, and then we transmit this data in real time. So the whole idea here is to actually get real-time data. This device runs on a 9-volt adapter. So it's relatively, and it actually consumes about 1 unit of energy. So in terms of...
so how is it established that this is the most harmful? Because the gases, I'm sure cause other kinds of harm. They don't settle in the lungs, but they, so how is
this stays in your body the longest because these are real particles. Supposedly, I mean, from what I've understood from my reading is that it settles in your lungs. So it's like you're smoking a cigarette, the particles are actually going to stay in your lungs. I don't know if they ever dissolve or not, but unlike gases, which maybe you breathe them out, PM supposedly stays in your lungs. So, but that's more of a medical question, I'm guessing. So I'm not really, but that's how WHO has classified it. So we have a dashboard which, and I'll show you the dashboard also, but this is just a slide deck of it. I mean, where on a map you will see real-time data, which will give you PM 2.5 and PM 10 in micrograms per meter cube. And we also compute hourly, and now there are multiple time periods that we support. So the averages for different time periods is calculated in this. Now the new one, which we've been working on now, and pardon the design of it, which is not adequately well designed. I mean, there's still room for doing a lot more on the design side. But from the computational side, what we have is, now for any device, if you want for any different time period, you can give the time span you want, and it will give you that number of hours average. So this is really where we've actually optimized. Our last 3 months of effort has gone into moving to a completely different database. So our first version of database is actually running on a MongoDB, where we were dumping data and computing hourly averages, and when we wanted to move to 4-hour and 8-hour averages, we were having to do that at the application layer. So it was becoming very challenging, because for every new time period that you want to do, let's say you want to do a 30-hour time period, you need to write code for doing a moving average of 30 hours. The new database that we moved to, it's called a Cassandra-based database. It's a Kairos DB, where all of that computation is done at the DB layer. And now actually what earlier used to take 10 to 15 seconds to compute, we actually get, you literally can get a 6-month time period, hourly average or a 2-hour average in a matter of 2 seconds. So that's really the huge leap of jump we've had on our backend. And now we can literally support thousands of devices with multiple people extracting their various time periods of averages that they want to look at. And I'll get into details why it's important to compute different time periods of averages. Because how much you get exposed to, how harmful is a pollutant for you depends on how long you're exposed to that pollutant. So CPCB says that you need to be exposed for 24 hours. But so anyway, so you can do various different computations over here, and this is really where on the computation and the engineering side, the effort has gone in, is to give a very fast time series database to support this application. Yeah.
So what is the source of this PM 2.5 calculation, and where do you put this device?
Maybe what I'll do is I'll quickly run through the whole thing, and then I can get into the specifics of these things, and I'll be happy to answer that. So one of the findings actually, and Samar is over here, he's a part of the core editorial team, and they do a lot of the analysis from the data, because we are on the engineering side, they are the ones who write the articles and all. So one of the findings that has come out actually is that mornings are the worst in terms of air pollution, and this has been consistent across the 4 cities that we've been collecting data from, is that in fact all the cities peak at 7 a.m. So our thought that going out for a morning jog at 7 a.m. actually is not a great idea at all. Of course, Bangalore is still okay, but in terms of Delhi and Mumbai, we've seen the rise is, compared to what your evening hours are of 5 p.m., which is about 22, your morning hours are almost about 5 times higher. So I think people who want to do outdoor exercises would be better off doing it in the evening. It's been one of the findings.
Why does it peak then? I mean, in Bangalore, there's no traffic at 7 a.m. It seems really strange that it would peak before the traffic starts.
So, the PM pollution actually is not directly related to vehicles. What happens is PM pollution, and in Delhi at least, it's related to, we think it's cooking, fuel burning, wood burning and tandoor burning and stuff. So maybe people are cooking early in the morning. We don't know enough. Honestly, we have not gone down to the sources of pollution. We are purely looking at just monitoring. But this has been a consistent finding over a 30-day period, and we are continuing to do this study. Does this remain the same month after month? Does it change? So a lot more will need to go into this, but this is some of the initial findings. The construction dust is one more. People actually in cities, they do construction in the night sometimes. Like in Lower Parel where we work, we see that a lot of the trucks, they are allowed to come in only after 11 p.m. Because the working hours, they are not allowed to come in. So we don't know the effect that what happens that construction being done in the night has an effect in the morning. So these are all inferences and analysis which will need to be done and correlate why these things are happening. We've also started exercises of comparing our device data with government data and government sensors. So in Delhi, this is there. I'll come to the other exercise we just did, but okay. Now I'll just come to what's happening on the government side of things. I mean, the government, of course, is aware of the problem, not that they are not. They use something known as the beta attenuation monitors. These are very large these are very large instruments. They're literally about 4 feet high. They cost about upwards of $20,000. They're supposed to be highly accurate, but the trade-off is that you can only put. I mean, the government has been installing just 1 or 2 of these in highly polluted cities. So these are the top 10 cities we have in India. And so the WHO may say of the 20 cities, 10 are in India. And as you can see, many of the places don't even have any government data. When we went to look, Patna has 1 for a population of 1.5 million. Kanpur has 1 device for 2 million. So the challenge here, of course, is that the government is trying to do things, but it's quite inadequate. Whatever they are trying and scaling their way of doing is also going to be very challenging, because putting $20,000 devices, you can only do so much of that. So the SAFAR project also is actually using the same beta attenuation monitors. They've rolled it out in Delhi, Bombay, and Pune, and CPCB also has their monitors.
So how is SAFAR different from the government?
The devices are the same. Is what SAFAR actually has not put out information about their devices. This is based on what we've heard is that it's a beta attenuation.
But as an organization, isn't it part of the...
It's the IITM, the Indian Institute of Tropical Management, which is not CPCB. So IITM is running its own show. So we really don't know how it fits into the larger government picture. So we've been doing some tests of our devices with the BAM, and the correlation has been reasonable. We are still, I mean, this is the information we are not yet putting out, for another 2 months, because the exercise is going to be a 3-month exercise. I mean, they want to run this in a chamber where we'll be hitting 500, 600, 800 levels, and they want to see over a sustained period that does the sensor, because the sensor needs to have a life of a substantial period of time. So the impact of how the sensor behaves once it's in the field for 6 months needs to be known. But this is something which we are halfway through. I mean, we started in early June, and but it correlates. I mean, the standard deviation and over here was about 1 to 1.5. So it correlates with the BAM, and so that's been the most encouraging thing we've had in the last 2 months.
What is 4255 versus...
That's our device numbers. 4255 and 5533 are the India Spend devices, and the BAM is the government device. We also have a very interesting integration. Now this is really, honestly, I mean, the way I see IoT, this is a kind of a real world integration, and actually I'll come to that on the actual browser. I'll show it. The project actually has been getting mentioned in the mainstream primarily because of the journalists we have in the team, but it's been getting a fair bit of visibility both in national and international news. So folks like LA Times and the National, there has also been all these TV shows, and when the odd even was on, we were part of the debates, telling that how much impact really is happening by cutting down cars by half, and there was actually not that much impact of odd even to the pollution levels. We recently got a data journalism award, in fact just last week. So this has been given out by the Global Editors Network, and so I think at least now people are talking about open data and sensor journalism in the mainstream media. So the good thing about this whole initiative is that actually IoT and things like that is getting into the public discourse and part of the policy making process. So the government realizes that you need citizens to be involved in collecting of data and you can't just dump policies on them. So they want citizens to install these things, be a part of what is happening in their neighborhood and the impact of their actions on the environment. So Breathe basically, it has consistent, live and reliable air quality data. So I'll just quickly go to the screens that we have. So this is our actual new dashboard. I mean, we have our existing dashboard, which is over here, which doesn't have the analytical capabilities. It just has the graphical visualization. The new dashboard we have is going to, it has the same visualization on the map, but the good thing is you can actually pick, let's say I'll pick a Bangalore device, St. Thomas Town, I think that's the one at, so now I want to, let's say I want to do a 12-hour average over, I'm going to pick for a month actually. So now this computation happened in real time actually. And if I had even done a 6-month period, the response which it gives is actually being computed on the fly. So that's been the most interesting part of this platform for us. But this you can now quickly get a glance. So we also do standard deviation computations here to tell you that, the variability of the PM data for this entire period, how much is it there? And this will basically tell you that over here the PM10 is staying slightly higher than PM2.5, and it peaked on around June 5th was when it peaked. So as far as the platform and the data and the analysis goes, doing this kind of time series computation has been something which we of course can export this data, and all of this is available through APIs over here. So what can happen is here, so this is a live API for the same device. Now instead of 2, if I want to do, let's say, a 6-hour average, so now what it has done is it's taken the entire time period, put it into 6-hour slots. So this was a 1-month time period I had given, which is 2016-05-01. So 1st May to till date. It split the entire time period into 6-hour slots and computed averages for that entire time period. And it's now told you that, every 6 hours what has been the AQI levels and the PM2.5 levels. So this actually helps the analyst a lot in terms of how to really compare data between cities, especially when you don't have equal amounts of data everywhere. So this has been one of the APIs we've released in the last couple of, now we've also added wind speed actually. The new interesting thing that we have started pulling is we actually pull wind data from a publicly available source. There's an organization called Wonderground, which is an IBM company. So we pull wind speed data from them. So now we have a granular level, and we are going to try and correlate, because the consistent thread is that air quality depends on wind speed. So now that is something that we'll be able to verify, that what is the level of correlation that can be seen. So primarily this is the APIs we have. We have an API which will tell you all the live devices right now. So this is a list of devices which have sent data in the last 1 hour. So we are building an automated way where any device which is off for more than 2 hours, we are going to SMS the owner of the device that please go and check on the device, why is it off. So we've stored all the phone numbers, and the system will automatically send an SMS.
Have you thought about building predictors on top of this information?
Predictors to predict air quality levels?
Yeah, I mean broad sets in which different pollutants.
No, we are still at a much lower level of computation, and the predictive models we've not gotten into. But I'll tell you what we've gotten into is that actually Twitter came ahead and told us, they had been seeing the articles and the analysis and all. So they actually have something known as a Firehose API. Now many of you might have heard the Twitter's Firehose API. They've not given it out to organizations. In fact, they don't give it out to anybody. because what the Firehose API does is it gives you a feed of all the tweets that are coming through with a particular hashtag. I mean, no, sorry, they give you a dump of all the feeds, of all the tweets that are happening globally. So you can just imagine the amount of data that is going to be coming to you. So I've heard there are 1 or 2 organizations in India which actually have the Firehose API access, but they themselves, so we couldn't have built this, but what they've done for us is that they've said that, okay, we are going to parse all the tweets and find out which ones have the hashtag breathe in it, and anybody who tags with a location like hash breathe and any neighborhood in a city, now they take our master API, which is this one. I'll show you. So they quickly read our master API, they look up that which is the nearest, so they have Santa Cruz West ka, how to convert it into lat long, they have that know-how. They convert what is the lat long of Santa Cruz West, which is in a place in Bombay, and they are going to go to our master API, they look up the closest data station which is to that Santa Cruz West, and they are going to respond to that with a graphical tweet of this kind. So this is all happening in a matter of 1 second, that they actually looked up the lat longs of Santa Cruz West, they went, looked up which is the nearest data station, and then they created this graphical on the fly, and they've responded. Now, so what happens in terms of citizens is that people, all they need to remember is just hashtag breathe and let's say Malleshwaram or IISc. Now this actually I would have loved to show the demo of. We had this demo running for 2 months. We've taken it down because of we are redoing our databases and the APIs and all. So our API structures are going through a lot of change. So they said let's switch it off for a while. So this particular service will come back on in a few weeks once our API stabilize. But this in a sense is a true IoT space, because what is happening is you are walking on the road, you just want to quickly check the air quality in your neighborhood. You don't need to remember any URL, you don't need to remember anything. All you remember is hashtag breathe and Koramangala. Within a second you get back a reply with what's the air quality in that area. So this has been something, and Twitter called it an IoT initiative of sorts. So this is what essentially, and then they launched it globally. So they talked about it on their global Twitter blog website and stuff like that. So to an extent, this is kind of where a lot of the project right now is at. But I'm happy to now take on some questions, and we can go over more details based on whatever questions you all might have.
Do you take some actions based on this monitoring?
So the actions, really speaking, is that if you start seeing, like, actually let me show you some real-time data. So let's pick Patna. I don't know if anybody over here, so this is actually the live dashboard we are looking at, and these are the live conditions in Patna right now. Now Patna has a level of 466 right now, which is really at a severe level. So the actual levels that you can see are all given here. So anything over 400 is considered extremely harmful. Now what can happen is, if you observe that your neighborhood is consistently staying in the severe category, the immediate actions we don't know, but at least you can do a deep dive into why is it so high, and if you don't have too many vehicles, so it's a question of, citizens asking more and more questions really, that why is my neighborhood, so it's like this simple comparison here in Patna we did, and this actually got mentioned on the front page of the new local newspapers there, that these two places are not too far off, and they've been installed in residential neighborhoods. The main thing, we have a criteria for how to install, and we install these at about 6 feet height. So we try to keep it consistent that at a human being, when he's walking around in the city, he's usually breathing at about 6 feet kind of thing. So all of these, if they are, so if these guys say, okay, why is this guy's area so much worse off than mine. So it's a responsibility ultimately is going to be with the citizens. This is not something which is going to give you answers. It's going to just make you have more questions. But that's kind of what the objective of the whole project is also, is that it makes you, question more. Like this one is telling you the PM10 is 427, the PM2.5 is 134. So there's something happening in this area where the PM10 is staying at almost 3 times the PM2.5 levels, whereas you saw in Bangalore, they're almost the same. So there's something happening which is making PM10 much higher, 3 times of PM2.5. But yeah, so that's how it is with in terms of questions.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so my question is, describe a bit about the product, like...
Actually, I don't know who's asking.
Yeah, here.
Oh, there, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the sensor product, like how is it different from that BMQ the government has
data.
made? And then, where and how do you install the sensor? Like, is it at the same level as the people are walking? Because maybe at the top of the building, the particles may be less than what they are near the road.
The experiments will have to be done for that. Honestly, there are no guidelines available from CPCB for these low-cost devices. To answer your first question, I don't have enough information. From what I've been explained, the beta thing, it's an impactor. They describe it as an impactor device where the particles supposedly impact on a film which is there inside. And they can actually measure the actual number of particles which are coming. So it's more like a counter rather than a concentration measure. And then they convert the count to concentration. But you don't quote me on this because I don't have enough information on how the BAM works. I'm sure it's a very sophisticated device. These are a laser device. So there is a small laser sensor inside in this. And when the air goes in, the laser gets scattered. And it is able to estimate the concentration. So this is a digital sensor. So for us, it gives a digital output. So it's literally like a digital thermometer. So we just take the digital output and transmit it. From a technology perspective of the sensor, I think I don't have enough know-how.
To address your second question on altitude, I think Ranjita, you want to take that?
Sure. So we've recently at Microsoft Research started working with a couple of these sensors from India Spend, and we've tried to see the effect of altitude on pollution. Very, very initial results. So take this with a pinch of salt. But we installed them in our office building on the ground floor. This is on Lavelle Road. If you're from Bangalore, you'll know where that is. We installed them on the ground floor at the road level, and then on our terrace, which is the 5th floor. So there was no difference, at least for that height level. Maybe if you go to the 20th floor or something, there might be some difference. But still, lots of work needs to be done.
Good, better pollution conditions than cities at sea level or at a lower altitude?
I don't know if that's necessarily true because from what I have seen, and Ronak can tell us because he's comparing Delhi with Bombay and Chennai. Bombay and Chennai look much better than Delhi.
So coastal makes a difference because of the wind speed factor. So altitude, I don't think we have enough information to comment on the impact of altitude on things. So
How about
Yeah, but-
Bangalore and Chennai? Bangalore has higher altitude than Chennai, so maybe like
Yeah, but yeah, lots of work needs to be, like Satish said, Bangalore is higher but is less polluted than Delhi. So it's unclear. I think there are lots of open questions here. We have many more questions than answers right now.
yeah.
Sir, if you get 2 requests from a consecutive place, how often, will you get it or get the data from the database, or will you do it again? How often do it? How often you do it again?
Yeah.
Then second thing is sir, there is some effect of pollution. There is some effect of pollution due to deforestation. Have you got any statistics like during where where the vegetation is high, what's the pollution, and where vegetation is not there, what's the pollution?
So to answer your first question, we hit the database every time right now. We are not having any middleware for optimization. So anytime any request comes, we compute it again. I mean, that's definitely an optimization we should do. So for your second question, we see the only correlation so far we've brought in the last 6-8 months is that we've started adding wind data to our database. So the other data points we don't have. So if there is a source of data from where we can pull it for the same time period, then I'm sure analysis can be done. Yeah.
Presumably you can determine what is causing, I guess the particulates will have different identities according to what is causing the pollution. So is it possible to drill down, before we were talking about cooking versus transportation dust, I'm sure there must be some vehicle pollution. And then it goes back to the actionable question.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do we want to do with this? And obviously the first thing we need to do is what you're doing, which is show it so that we have it.
Yeah.
But then how do we deal with it? And to me, there's some sense that some of it is a larger problem and a government problem, and some of it will be regulations. Some of it might actually be actionable. I hadn't even thought about the cooking as being such a high causing of pollution. And we might be able to think of ways, like Amarjeet's whole talk is about how can you help people themselves change their behavior in a way that's less polluting. But we need more.
So that's a realm of aerosol experts, and there are a lot of aerosol experts. I mean, they've also taken our devices. We have a bunch of people in Delhi and in Kanpur who they are established aerosol experts who are answering these very questions, like what is the makeup of the pollution, and how much of NO2 pollution is caused by vehicles, how much of PM 2.5 pollution is caused by vehicles, and things like that. But we've not gone into that.
But we have carried that on our side. IIT Kanpur last year did a source apportionment study.
Right.
Which for Delhi specifically. So IIT Kanpur did a source apportionment study which clearly showed what Delhi's pollution was made up of. Half of it was made up of construction dust. And only 10% came from cars and two-wheelers. Which is why that measure was failing, because when that measure, when that odd even measure first began, our devices were showing that there was actually a spike. And clearly there were other factors at play. The wind may have dropped, we don't know, humidity may have risen because that tends to trap particles within. But clearly something was happening which was not related to the odd even, and things were worsening. And what happened after that was then we got accused by the Delhi government of being paid by, a paid media organization by the BJP, for the BJP, against the BJP. I had to issue some statements after that.
So they actually didn't question our data, they started questioning our funding. And that's where the whole problem...
So I think it comes back into that same thing that you were saying, the actionable thing. Unless we start asking those questions, we can't start getting answers. And if you start shaking up government and telling them, look, there's a problem with the data that you've been throwing out at us. And when we first started comparing it with government data, when this whole thing began, half the devices used to be down for most of the time. And now we found that because this has now got into the realm of public debate, those devices are not going down as often as they did. And they used to stay off for 20 days, 25 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two separate questions. I mean, I guess, all this debate and questions, and also I saw in your Delhi map, the hotspot you have is what I recall to be the richest part of the city. So I'm just wondering, have you calibrated your devices by putting two of them at the same place, seeing whether they give you the same numbers, or better still putting your device co-located with the government? You said the government has some data or something. Do the numbers match? That's one question.
So that's,
You've done that? Okay.
That's right here. Oops. Okay, something happened.
So BAM is the government one?
The BAM is the government sensors. I don't know why it's not full screen.
It's full screen now.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry. Something is...
Yes.
Okay. So this is... So this is the government sensors.
Okay, and this was at one location.
This is at one. So now the thing is,
like for example, you go to that hotspot in Delhi.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the government may not have a sensor there, but some place where the government has something.
So the challenge here on a practical level, what is there? There is no organization which has a mandate to validate devices, and nobody wants to take that responsibility. we've been told categorically by DPCC and CPCB that we will not do this. We will install our own sensors, but we are not it's not in our charter to validate other people's devices, and we don't want to get into that business, because if we do it once and something goes wrong with your device and you say, okay, it was validated by CPCB, we don't want to take that responsibility.
No, I'm not saying that they should do it. I'm saying you guys. I thought this was your device.
This is ours,
right,
but for us to do this with any government, see, we don't have a $20,000 device. We don't have any BAM monitors. We don't own BAM monitors. So
right,
we've been going
to where that is. Can't you just go to that?
We've done that.
Okay.
We've done that. I mean, that's what in Delhi the that was what was done.
Because some of the data is very surprising, as I said. I mean, completely off-scale numbers in a location where it's very rich. So it's just
So I think a lot more work needs to be done. Honestly, it's a lot of operational and logistical work also in this.
The other quick question is, you said you need to have exposure for 24 hours before it actually affects you. This is 24 hours continuous or aggregate?
That's what EPA says.
So you have 1 hour every day for 24 days.
No, EPA says that 24-hour exposure is when it becomes severe for you. So when we say 466, if you are exposed for 5 minutes, we can't really call it severe, because technically the guideline says that you have to be exposed for 24 hours at 400 plus. So this is really for people living on the streets, honestly, not in our houses. So if you're stepping out for a run and coming back in 10, 20, 30 minutes, this is for people sleeping on the street who are breathing this for 10 hours. For them, they are definitely getting ill because of pollution, is what the thing is.
So don't there exist algorithms to identify pollutant migration trends, basically? Because you have the heat map of pollution over the entire space in question, but from that, can't you compute using wind speed that over time what's going to be the future heat map?
So there is 10 years of research which has gone into using satellite data for identifying pollution hotspots. And that data has been getting published. The problem is nobody's looking at it, because when you don't involve citizens in the data collection process, they don't feel inclined to look at your analysis. Because if the experts in the Bhuvan, the ISRO project which collects a lot of this data, they will put a report out. You will say, okay, these guys are sitting, I don't even know where, collecting data from the satellite. Is it really impacting me in my own house? Whereas you put this out outside your balcony, and you see a 400 level, you're going to try to do something about it. You're going to call up, so basically it's like involving citizens is what this whole project is about.
I just wanted to understand, you said it's so different in the streets and in your home. I mean, it's all in the same locality, right? Like there's a main road, there's a residential area, and right next to it. How much different can it be inside the house and outside on the street?
I think you should do that experiment. You should take one of the devices and do it yourself, because we don't want to answer for anybody. Honestly, all of you guys are extremely sharp. I would suggest, get devices, do your own experiments. I mean, we are here merely to, do whatever we, stuff that we have got done till here. But we are not going to be the experts in this space. So in that sense, this is a citizen science project where each citizen is expected to be involved in the science of it.
You could mention what they found in Ahmedabad, in the bus transit systems. We carried that report. See, in Ahmedabad, I think it was an IIT study, was it? Or we carried the whole report and looked at the data. What happened basically was they looked at what are the pollution levels in the bus transit system. Ahmedabad has a very good bus transit system, and in air-conditioned cars and on two-wheelers. They found, of course, that the safest was the bus. The lowest levels of pollution were in the bus transit system, especially in air-conditioned buses, of course. But they were all these vehicles were traveling down the same corridors, but it was much safer up in the buses than it was down in the cars, even in air-conditioned cars. Air-conditioned cars found the levels were as bad as two-wheelers, almost as bad as two-wheelers, whereas buses, I think, was about 25% higher. And just to add to Ronak's point that, we have just beginning this. The possibilities are endless, and we're always looking for people to add on. A lot of our devices are essentially in people's houses, and we figured that if the pollution levels must reflect what we live and what we breathe. So most of them are in people's houses. And again, coming to your point, some of those areas, like for example, RK Puram, which is a very green area in Delhi, consistently shows up high danger levels. So clearly they're also close to high traffic routes. And there's also a lot of construction going on. So clearly this is impacting it in some way. Now we do not have the expertise to go down into those details, and that will require a lot of scientific expertise to figure out why RK Puram in Delhi is doing that. But what we can do is invite all of you to join in this. There are a lot of people now who have started randomly, they write to us on email or even Twitter saying, can I get a device? And we said, yeah, sure. There are a lot of people who want to buy the devices and keep it in their houses permanently, which you can. It costs, what, 10,000 rupees? 15,000 rupees to buy the device and keep it. There are others who just want to take the device for a variety of reasons. Microsoft has taken a couple. One day, a developer, there's a big real estate agency called Royal Palms in Bombay.
Yeah.
They walked in and said, we want to buy 2 devices. And those devices keep popping up on a map. And we figured out why. Because their huge housing project is next to this RA Mill colony, which is a very green area. And I think they are using that. It's part of our network. It's fine
so
for
they
us.
actually, someone are now writing, I mean, they're showing that in the ads which come in the Bombay edition of the newspaper. When they advertise Royal Palms, they're putting these numbers in the ad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I showed you to go in. And, we don't know whether they're putting it in their air-conditioned office or are they really keeping it out.
Yeah. They are showing a much lower levels of pollution. That's for sure.
That is true. That is true. So that is true. Yeah.
This issue is kind of this issue is very close to me. I've lived in Bangalore my whole life, and recently I moved to Delhi.
Yeah.
And I stay in the IIT campus, which is
Yeah.
comparatively much greener
Yeah.
than outside. But even then, I
Yeah.
feel that suffocation and
No.
there's a lot of breathing problems. So we actually tried and made a carbon purifier
Yeah.
that you can just keep in the house, and it maybe after 1-2 hours you can see some difference in the air quality. So that's why I was.
No, I think your point is valid. And in January, February, when it was hitting the peaks of 500 and 600, the entire city was covered, from Lodi Estate to RK Puram to Karol Bagh. And Karol Bagh is the less affluent, and Lodi Estate is where Rahul Gandhi goes for a walk, and they were all breathing the same thing. So the fact remains that it doesn't matter whether you're in Lodi Estate or in the outskirts, you are breathing the same thing, and that is what came up on the map. So
one thing I thought might be related. I don't know if this is scientifically correct, but Delhi has a very different climatic conditions compared to the other metro. And in the last winter, because of the fog settling and everything, I think the pollution is trapped in that area and it's not able to move. So maybe climatic conditions of a particular place matters a lot in terms of how polluted the city is. So could we use that information to predict or...
yeah, see, there is a lot of things possible, so it's just a question of doing it. So. Yeah. Yeah.
So at least you.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
You are doing a really good job.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, how do you sustain or make money out of it? I think I'm more about what is the...
We ourselves are trying to figure, that's the question I was just telling Ranjita, we don't know. See, I am an engineering background, he's a journalist. We don't have any business folks and any MBA folks, sorting that problem out for us. So we don't... Yeah, we are happy. If you have some ideas. Yeah, but no, we have grants. We receive grants from journalism outfits, from policy making outfits, and environmental agencies. So we receive one-off grants on and off, but there is no sustained. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like we're flush with money. We go 2-3 months without salaries, etc. is quite routine.
Yeah.
But when he began this project, initially the investment that came into making these devices, doing the software, it all came from our own money, and that was it. And we just felt strongly we had to do it. And we thought that, some assistance would follow, and it followed shortly. But we have these limited grants. Grants are very difficult to get. You have to apply and wait, etc.
Yeah.
So we have some money now to buy more devices, which is why we're spreading it out to Patna. We're adding on Varanasi and Allahabad.
So now there are 10 cities. It's these 10 mentioned here actually. Delhi, Patna, Gwalior, Raipur, Ahmedabad. So
driving this, and he reaches out to IITs, etc., who are, because this is so new and unique, people tend to contribute and want to collaborate. So we're very happy to have that kind of support from places like these. So there are a lot of projects going on the side which will help
like
us.
Twitter actually on their own came and offered. Yeah. Honestly, if you had gone and pitched to them, I doubt they would have built this, because I mean this kind of an application is very expensive to build.
So Twitter doesn't pay for you?
Well, that's
that's
underway.
No, they
it's
don't.
Not
they should
sorted
pay,
out.
But they don't. Nothing.
They are not right now. They are not paying. They are not paying.
So this is a hand-to-mouth thing. So which is why we always invite people.
They know how to do business better than us. Let's just say that.
So you talked about the Mumbai builder sending their data to you. So was it voluntary on their part that they
don't have an option?
Oh,
because the devices are
the
built
data is
in
owned
a way
by you in
that
that case.
the data always comes to us.
Lose control over the
This
data.
thing,
it comes to our data.
It makes an HTTP post to our server api.indiaspend.org.
I see.
You can't do anything in between.
Oh, so
it's
if I buy the device, I am giving the data away to you anyway.
You have to, yeah. That's the only way it comes. So all of that data actually eventually comes into a spreadsheet like this.
I see.
And I mean in a database, of course, and you can download it. But
it links to the nearest mobile tower.
Mm-hmm.
We can hide devices, like Kanpur devices we tend to hide because they are being experimented on. So if we know that this device is being worked on, then we don't put it on the dashboard.
Yeah, so you mentioned that there was a ranking of cities of WHO. So have since you've included your sensors in these cities, does your ranking match that?
Oh, we've not finished the deployments. We just started it actually. We have just started the deployments. But definitely Patna is showing up consistently at 400. And in fact, there were days when all 5 were above 500. So Patna, so far in this list, I think, let me just try to zoom into this. I don't know why this thing. So we've not done, we've shipped out to Allahabad, Patna we've deployed, Delhi, Kanpur we've put, Lucknow we've put. So that's,
I think in the next 6 months these will be much more
populated,
right?
Yes. So that's the idea. Yeah.
I'm from Gwalior.
Yeah.
I don't.
So you're right at the top. You need to take one home today, I think.
Pollution is much more there because I suspect it is pollution per unit area or somewhat in total population.
So the thing is, WHO. This is a guide. I mean, that is a good question because WHO has done this ranking based on some government data which they have access to. CPCB, I'm guessing, correct. But that CPCB has not put out, CPCB is putting out real-time data only for New Delhi. They have not put out real-time data for anywhere else. So I guess they must be having access to that data. Cool.
Any more questions?
We have another 5 minutes more, but.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think, oh yes, sorry, one more question. Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
Can something be done when people question your data?
Can something be done? I mean, we are doing comparison tests. So we are going to put that out at some point once we are confident of it. But I think we are like 6 months away from doing that. The only new thing we are working on, I'll quickly touch upon, is we are starting a GIS thing. I mean, if any of you guys, I mean, it's not an IoT thing, but ultimately, we're starting to build a GIS platform on India Spend, which will allow you to do geo-based analysis. And honestly, we started from a Postgres database, moved to a MongoDB, then now we moved to a Cassandra DB, and now we're still again thinking of trying a Postgres database for our PostGIS database for the GIS computation part of it. But this is more on the R&D side of our things. that is there any geographic analysis that a GIS platform should offer. So we've just set up this open source platform for GIS computations. So anyway, this is what is underway.
Yeah, just to say that you're doing a very great job, and I suppose you just started now. I'm sure you'll build upon it. I wouldn't be offering you any money, but probably some ideas. Actually, I mean, those devices, for such a big city like Bangalore, having, a few devices, I wouldn't, I would think it wouldn't reflect the actual circumstances.
Yeah, so I think.
Whereas, I mean, if I look at Bangalore, or I mean, you said St. Thomas, that's sort of where it's somewhere in the Bangalore East, and it's far out. So I suppose you had collected from a representative area, and you must be having an inkling of which must be the highest polluted, sub area. So I would suggest, like, collect, probably, label all these areas as sub areas in a single city.
Yeah.
And then we might be able to find out, okay, this area is more polluted, and from an individual from a personal point of view, okay, I wouldn't like to go there jog in the morning, or I wouldn't like to shop there.
Yeah.
Probably if I'm a businessman, I wouldn't like to build hospitals in that area.
Yeah.
Or probably not buy apartments in that area.
We are looking at local partners for doing all of that, because we are a team of just 10 people in Bombay.
Yeah, understand.
And some are here in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So for us, it's all going to be local partners who are going to do this, So.
I mean, you could sort of set a benchmark all by yourself in terms of the ranking, and then put it, give that information to builders, and then say that, I got this pollution index of so and so. I mean,
yep, cool.
You might
yep,
as well.
Definitely. I think there is room for doing a lot more. So anyway, that's all from my side. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ronak, I'm sorry if it's been answered already, but I have some statistics background, and I want to access your data set and do some analysis, which I'll be happy to share with you. So how do I get started?
We'll be most happy to. Honestly, for researchers, this is a non-profit, and the reason is, when there are real estate guys asking for free data, we don't want to give it because they put it in their ads. But if it's researchers, it becomes a different story. So we'll be most happy to.
Must have had their own sensors, right? So what can you tell us what they actually deployed to come up
They
with
said they picked, so that report is there. We can.
They have to use CPCB data,
Yeah.
pollution control board data. So they don't have their own sensors.
They don't do
This
any.
is the government data.
This is government data that they have access to.
But I thought you said government does not have stations, monitoring stations.
They've not put out, when you go to CPCB site, there is nothing called Gwalior where you can access data. We don't have access to CPCB.
All right.
So we go to their website and look for data. Now Delhi ka data is available. And a few other places which I have mentioned here, their data is available. But the other, like Gwalior, we don't know how to access that data.
But they came up with the rank.
But so WHO must have directly engaged with them and got it. It's like, an organization comes to us, we'll give them a lot more data than, somebody who will go to the website and download it. So. Okay.
Sir, how you are putting your sensor throughout the city? Like you gave this data that this city is having this much PM level.
Yeah.
So how you are putting your sensor, or is it like is it like showing the throughout the city, or is it localized? Like?
No, it's like, we might be putting it outside this window, and that's it. I mean, the device is this small, so.
But that won't show like it's not happening in the entire city.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's an open question. That how representative is this?
Yeah.
So we don't know that answer to that.
So you can put more sensor and
Yeah.
like do some.
Happy to. Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Cool.
Thank Ronak again for an illuminating talk. I think it's an important issue that.
Thank you.
And I hope many of you, participate in this project. A small token of an appreciation.
Thank you. Thanks.